originally developed that was purchased out of bankruptcy. So it was already in the ground. It was approved as a part-time system, but it had been sold to customers as a full-time system. And so when we took it over and we bought it out of bankruptcy, we left it on full-time, but it didn't actually get changed on the state's books to a full-time system until last year.
Now, Shane, when you say
full-time system the entire time.
Shane, when you say full-time system, are you meaning
12
that
months.
It was intended to be operated only part of the year on a seasonal basis?
Correct. And so, but we were unaware of the depth of the pipe, and we've had issues with leaks, and it's PVC pipe. And what happens is, because we have freezing, obviously with it being buried that shallow, it'll get a crack. And then over years, that crack will run in the pipe and the leak becomes larger and larger. The problem with the topography there on the mountain is we've never had these things surface because there's so much bedrock that it just goes down, disappears. We had problems last summer with 3 lots, 4 lots, maybe 2 cabins, and a guy that had a connection, but no cabin. So 3 meters that were affected with low pressure or no pressure for an amount of time. We had the Utah Rural Water Association on the mountain with listening devices. We had them there for 2 weeks, and they kind of threw their hands up in the air. They had no idea. They couldn't help us. We did find additional valves that were not on the original as-built, and they suggested, their opinion was, we might even have pipe that we're unaware of. We talked with each other and just said, okay, what are we going to do? We just started to dig, and we dug up about a 1/4 mile of road in where we assumed we would find the leak. We eventually found it. We got it fixed, pressures restored, everything's okay. But in the meantime, there had been multiple complaints, and we had to deal with those. And the bottom line is all of this pipe needs to be replaced because it's fixed right now. Everybody has pressure, everybody has water, but there's 4.5 miles of old PVC pipe that are not buried at an appropriate depth for a full-time system. And they needs to be replaced, or we're going to continue to have issues. And so that's why we asked for the rate increase. The rate increase includes a loan to replace all of that pipe. It will be a 2 to 3 year job because we can only work, depending on the season and snow, 4 to 5 months if we're lucky on the mountain. But that's why we're asking for the rate increase. What other questions do you have for me?
So last year, the company put in a request for an exemption from PSC jurisdiction.
Correct.
Can you just walk us through sort of the decision-making process that went into that request and the decision to withdraw the request, and some of the interaction that you had with the HOA that governs this project?
Okay. We put in an application to go that way because we wanted to raise the rates and address the pipe issue as quickly as possible. We had people that intervened, and so we wanted to have a meeting with the HOA members and give them an opportunity, because we have to give everybody, as you know, a share, a voting share in the water company. It would be the HOA and ourselves running it together. And we wanted to have a meeting and sit down and go over all of this. And the HOA members and some lot owners showed up with an attorney and basically intervened. We had no idea they were coming with an attorney. And so basically, instead of fight that, we just said, okay, we'll withdraw the whole application and we'll go back to a rate increase. And so I was in the process of completing a rate increase with the help of Mark Long, who we've hired as a consultant. And while we were working on that rate increase, there was a formal complaint made by a Sam Ray. I've never met him. I've spoke to him on the phone and over email. I've never met the guy. I wouldn't know him if I saw him, but he filed a formal complaint. And during that process with his complaint that was eventually dismissed, the Public Service Commission ordered the DPU to do an investigation into our rates because they assumed we cannot operate on the money we were charging, which is correct. And so it's kind of sped the process up to where we're at now.
So approximately how much did this repair cost you last year?
If we would have hired that out and not done it with our own equipment and with our own people, it would be a 7-figure number. I don't know. I would have to have it bid, but our bids for the 4.5 miles of pipe have been between, when we submitted those bids, but they've been between 3.2, I believe, up to $7 million. We're only going to take out a loan for between 2.4 and 2.6 million because we're going to volunteer our equipment in the trenching and working of that. And we will have to hire the pipe fusion and an outside contractor to do that. But we're going to do it in a partnership so that we can alleviate some costs. We've done everything to bring the cost down that we can.
Mr. Bramhall, do you mind if I interject and just for a clarifying question, when you say we are going to volunteer our equipment, are you referring to the parent company?
Yeah, yes. Legacy Sweetwater, the parent company owns the equipment and they're going to let us use that equipment. But the parent company is no longer going to subsidize monetarily any of the operational costs.
The parent company is iTools?
Money Tools.
Okay. And that's the company that owns the equipment you're referring to that would be lent to do the work.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
More specific. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I just wanted to explore the scope of the subsidy that we're talking about. The actual construction, or I should say, repair work that was done last year. Approximately how much did that cost the company, cost Sweetwater?
I would have to go back and look at the books, and I apologize. I don't have those specific numbers in front of me, but over the last 36 months-ish, we're $800,000 in the red in subsidies. And that's why iMoney Tools has just said, if this cannot stand on its own, we can't continue to throw money at it.
So even in a normal year where you did not have these unusual repair expenses, are you still in the red?
Absolutely.
Do you know the approximate number?
It's been between 20 and 30,000 a month on average over the last 3 to 5 years.
And is it correct that the company is not seeking to recoup any of those prior losses? You're just looking at being in the
owners of iMoney Tools are willing to eat that $800,000, and that was not figured in to the rate case. They're okay just to say we'll write that off, but we can't continue to put more in. They're not asking for that money to be recouped.
And it's not just that money; it's the $20,000 or $30,000 per month going back years and years and years and years.
Yes, and I mean that cost has gone up as the system has aged, and we've had to replace pumps. We replaced 3 booster pumps in 1 year while we had the leaks because the pump was being overworked and it would burn out. And that was a $15,000 pump. We had to do 3 of them in 1 year.
Have you explored other options with the HOA regarding company ownership and operation?
That was that's what the whole idea behind going unregulated was. And they were, through the attorney, they said, no, thank you.
And the idea was, if I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the idea was, we don't have any particular interest in running a company. It's not profitable for us. We don't need to own and operate this company. We would just as soon turn it over to shareholders. Is that a fair statement?
Correct. It was to do this jointly, but at long term, yeah, we didn't have, we just wanted it to pay for itself and be able to run. And if the HOA or any type of whatever we put together with them to put the water company as unregulated, I think you made several offers to their attorney with different things and they were all shot down.
Yeah. Well, Judge, I think that's all I have for Shane. And unless, Shane, you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, I don't know if Ms. Schmidt has any questions for me.
Well, let me ask, Mr. Bramhall, are you going to call another witness, Mr. Long, for example?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll ask you, first of all, I know that I believe Mr. Berry submitted written testimony, and I don't know if he was involved in the preparation of other documents supporting the application. But if you would like to move the admission of those, Mr. Bramhall, it would usually be done through the witness that worked on the documents to verify their involvement in the veracity of the documents.
Great. I suppose we should start with Mr. Berry's written testimony that was submitted. Shane, and Judge, I haven't done this before, so bear with me, but we'd like to move to include Shane's testimony into the written record.
Mr. Berry, if you prepared the direct testimony that was submitted in conjunction with the application, is that correct?
Yes.
And if you were asked those same questions today, would your answers be any different?
No.
Hearing no objection, it's admitted.
Thank you. Would it be appropriate at this time to dismiss Shane and call Mark Long?
Well, no, let's ask Ms. Schmidt if she has any cross-examination questions.
The division has no questions, thank you.
All right, I have a few clarifying questions for you, Mr. Berry. The first one is the status of what I'll just call the Boyle order from the Division of Drinking Water. I think you all know what I'm talking about. That's been lifted, correct?
No.
It has not been lifted.
No, the state said we could lift it, and I have spoken to the HOA and specifically the president and the Craig who's over water, and told them we were not going to lift it. The reason we're not going to lift it is because we have in the process of having John Chartier, if you know who he is, he did our what is it called? They do an inspection every 5 years. And off the top of my head, I can't remember what it is, but he ended up on the mountain with customers last summer during these complaints to inspect part of the system as well. And
Shane, he's an employee of the Division of Drinking Water. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
And he pointed out multiple illegal storage tanks that were connected to the system and two cabins, and told us that it was our responsibility and explained the consequences. And so we said, hey, we're not going to pull this Boyle order, even though we tested the two lots that he asked us to when we got pressure back and they both came back clean. We've never not passed a test. Everything has always been clean, but we have storage tanks that are connected to the system that might not have proper backflow. And until we sent out an ordinance to everybody in January or February and explained what backflow was, said what our position was, said you shouldn't have these tanks. If you have these tanks, you need to have them inspected annually and then submit to us the results of that backflow assembly, and said that we're not going to lift the boil order until we can resolve all of these tank issues.
Okay, so
Because it's out of precaution. If we lost some pressure massively and we had a big suction, we might suck something out of one of those tanks, and one of those tanks might have been sitting there literally for a year with nobody at the cabin, and I have no idea what might be growing in it.
so the Division of Drinking Water identified that problem, but was
Yep.
willing to lift the boil order, and out of an abundance of caution, the company elected not to.
Correct.
Okay. So it's over 40,000 feet, I believe, of PVC pipe that you've testified need to be replaced. Is that essentially the entirety of the system? Or
No,
what?
that's the old part of the system that was purchased, and it's about half.
Okay. And the loan that the company is proposing to obtain in order to finance the remediation costs, your testimony suggests that would be a 30-year loan at 4% interest. Have you or the company worked with a lender at all to identify terms, or is this all prospective?
It's perspective based on what other similar companies have been able to do, but we can't even talk to a lender. I mean, I suppose I could, but we're not a viable company, and we viable and not in the red. There's no way we can get approved for anything.
And the fact that the roughly 40,000 linear feet of PVC needs to be replaced, is that based on the company's assessment alone? Did the Division of Drinking Water recommend that, or have you had an independent engineer assess that?
Based off of the problems that we've had with it that have gone progressively worse, and for how long it took us to find this last leak, and people were without water or low pressure, and it's just going to continue to happen. I mean, I've had private conversations with John and private conversations with guys at the Rural Association of Water from Utah, and everybody said until that PVC is replaced, because of the depth especially that it's buried, it's just a ticking time bomb until the next leak happens.
Perhaps I could interject with a few additional questions. Would that
Sure,
be
go ahead.
appropriate? So Shane, explain to us a little bit about the seasonality of the operations, and in particular, part of the company's request includes the ability to read the meters only during the summer and fall schedules. Can you just tell us a little bit about the snowpack, the difficulty you have in reading meters and actually locating and repairing leaks during the winter months?
During the winter months, the gate is locked, number one, and the roads are not plowed. There is no way we could get a track hoe. This development is between, I don't know what the low elevation is, but it goes above 8,000 feet. And so a few years ago, when we had those 2 winters in a row, I mean, it was crazy. I have pictures where we were digging for a valve to turn off so we could fix the pump, and it's over Dave's head on the picture where we were digging, trying to find a valve to turn off so we could replace a pump. because we still have to go up and do tests every month. And so we have to go to places and turn water on, but to read meters is just not feasible. And to work on the system, well, I can give you an example. Somebody hit an air vac, if you know what that is, an air vacuum that burps the system so that we don't get air locks. A snowmobiler hit one of those and broke it down under the ground, hit the pipe on top, ran over it. It broke it underground, and we lost pressure to a number of people. And we were down there on a track side by side and on snowmobiles for days. We had residents that were out looking for it as well. And it took us 3 days, and we finally found where that was coming from, and then went and dug up the valve and turned that section off. And we were lucky that only one cabin owner was on that section, because there's no way we could address that and fix it until spring. And so if multiple people would have been on that line, they would have been without water. And that's how it's impossible to do work other than in the summer and fall. We have to, even if it's extremely muddy, it's clay and rock, and it's impossible to work in and when it's mud as well.
So if you had the option to continue patching together this system that was not intended and not constructed to be used during the winter months, if you decided to pursue that option and just keep it running as repairs were needed, one of the results of that approach is that some of these repairs simply could not be made for many, many months, and you would have customers offline without water for extended periods of time. Is that correct?
That's correct. I mean, and feasibly, to be honest, if we had something happen with the new fusion pipe that we put in, we would be in the same situation. But we've only ever experienced in that new pipe one break at a saddle in the entire time that it's been in the ground. And that was fixed. And then we've had a couple of PRV valve issues, but to get into a PRV is usually, we know where those are and we can dig them out, and they're in a manhole box. And so we can get in there and work if it's necessary.
That's all I had.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Bramhall. On the same issue, when you referred to the old system, the original developer, I believe you relayed that the intention was that the system would be used seasonally, presumably in the fair weather months when it was warm.
Yes.
And
Actually, I can't remember what the dates were, but the dates were actually on our water page until last year. And it was Mr. Chartier who went in and changed that himself as well.
who's
and
Mr. Chartier?
Yes, John from the clean drinking water. He's an engineer.
Understood.
He does our, I don't know why I'm having a lapse of memory on what the inspection that we have to do every 5 years. He comes and does it on the entire system.
And he changed the dates to suggest that the service should be available year round. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. He went in, it just goes from a seasonal system with dates to a full-time system. And he made that change because we have been servicing it as a full-time system since it was purchased, because that's what the original developer sold it as, even though that was not the case.
So you said the gate is closed. You also referenced snowmobiling. So presumably individuals who live up there access their cabins with snowmobiles during the winter.
Bills or track side by side. There's an opening big enough to get a track side by side on the side of the gate when they close the gate. But the whole idea is, and there are a lot of people, I would think that there are just as many people over Christmas and New Year's. It's people go there. It's close to Skyline Mountain. They can access that, which is some of the best snowmobiling in the state. So the cabins have heavy use during the winter months.
All right. I believe your testimony suggested that Sweetwater has one full-time employee and a shared employee that it shares with the parent company, iMoney Tools. Is that correct?
Yes.
And how is there a time with respect to the shared employee? Is their time accounted for between the two companies?
I'm on salary. I'm the shared employee. And so it's not a time thing. I'm on salary, but what we did is took my salary basically out of that rate case. And then Mr. Anderson, who is he sold some of the lots on the original or on the development after it was purchased, and he's been doing water stuff for the company, and he's not being compensated for that either. And we didn't put any of that. All we put in was the guy who runs the machines, who goes and makes the repairs. But I mean, all of us pitch in where we can is what it comes down to. And we're not asking to be paid for that. We really are trying to take out as many costs as possible. When we were working on the worksheet with the DPU, they asked about it specifically. And so we just kept taking things out to get the cost down as much as we could.
All right. And in terms of the commercial office space cost, I believe that went up significantly in recent years. Is that also shared space?
Yes.
And what portion of that is allocated to Legacy Sweetwater as opposed to iMoney Tools?
Hang on one second and let me get some square foot figures. I don't know what the square foot is up here total.
40,000 feet in 2 offices and the secretary for Legacy Sweetwater. So less than 1,200 feet, right around 1,000.
Yeah, there's about 40,000 feet on the floor that we occupy, that iMoney Tools occupies in Thanksgiving Point building. And we have 2 offices, and this is probably 10 by 6, 2 offices, and then a shared secretary. So
it's a relatively small portion that's allocated to the water company. Okay. And then with regard to the legal expense, I believe there was no legal spend in 2024, but then there had been significant legal expenses associated presumably with the HOA litigation you referenced, and then with the regulatory proceedings before the commission.
Correct.
I don't need to know the details about the litigation with the HOA, but can you just contextualize it for me a little bit and tell me whether it's ongoing and anticipated to be ongoing?
No, it's put to bed as far as when they intervened, but based on the phone calls that I have taken from both just customers, cabin owners, and crazy requests that I've been getting, I will be surprised if there's not formal intervention on the rate increase. And the bottom line is anything that we have to spend with Chris and his firm at the final rate, I'm going to ask for that to be included if it gets crazy.
Oh, perhaps I misunderstood. Sometimes folks use the term litigation in numerous contexts. I was under the impression, looking at some of the documents, that there had been a civil filing in district court.
No civil filing. They just did an intervention on the application, and then Chris and their attorney went back and forth with different offers and declines. No actual civil suit filed.
Thank you for that clarification. I think those are all my questions. Mr. Bramhall, do you have any redirect?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Berry, for your testimony. And forgive me, Mr. Bramhall, I forget whether you intended to call Mr. Long or another witness.
Yes, I would like to question Mr. Long.
Mr. Long, are you with us?
Yes,
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Go ahead, Mr. Brownhall.
Thank you. Mr. Long, you've prepared most of the filings in connection with this rate request, and are very familiar with the finances of the company and the expenses of the operations. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Could you just generally outline the process and procedures that you followed in coming up with the number that's before the commission now?
Yes, I have a few comments I'd like to make. In
Yes,
general,
thank you.
okay, in general, Legacy Sweetwater believes the request is reasonable and the proposed interim rates are more likely to reflect actual costs and current rates. Actions to reduce the projected base rates for customers by forgiving the $800,000 loan and monthly losses for years for operational costs have helped reduce the rates. The rate calculations also erred on the conservative side in applying kayak, contribution and native construction. A majority of the depreciable assets were forwarded to kayak, and as you know, a higher kayak number lowers the rate base that a rate of return is calculated on. I scrutinized every expense line item to assure accuracy in amounts and that each amount related only to the water company. The initial rates were calculated using much higher salaries, and we were able to get those down to what was actually only applicable to the water company. In fact, the initial rates were more than twice as much. We were concerned about the rate shock. The only two methods that I know of to raise funds is by a rate increase, including interim rates or applying for a special assessment. Municipal water companies can raise taxes and have many other sources to raise money, whereas private water utilities can only raise funds through their rates. The special assessment needed to cover the repair, the loan amount, would be a one-time special assessment of $25,057 for each connected customer, or about $7,500 for standby customers if standby was paying 30% of the rate of the connected customers. We felt that the rate increase option is much more customer friendly than a special assessment. Without the total request for interim rates approved, the day-to-day operations will go on, but there'll be no improvements. Legacy realizes that interim rates are subject to a refund or surcharge pending completion of the final rates. Again, Legacy Sweetwater believes the request is reasonable and the proposed interim rates are more likely to reflect actual costs than the current rates.
Mark, in very general terms, could you just go through the line items, not every single one, but just in general categories, the line items that are included in the requested monthly rate?
Yes, we basically looked at the income statement expenses, and these are located on exhibit 15.1 called adjusted expenses. And just in general, we have wages, which includes some payroll taxes, employee benefits. Going through, we have some amounts for accounting, which is very minimal. We have legal, which we feel are more than likely, at least for the foreseeable future, are going to have a lot of legal costs going forward. Let's see, we have outsourced, contractual services, water system maintenance and repairs. We were able to lower that by about $15,000 a year for our request, because we're going to be, if the loan is approved, then we'll have less repairs and maintenance on that. Trying to think if there's any other notable rental of the technology, services, software and equipment, rental of office, transportation equipment. We left that the same. We didn't increase that at all. There's some travel, which includes the fuel and mileage for the equipment.
In insurance,
Yep, we don't have any insurance, and that's something that the company ought to look into, and perhaps the division and their recommendation would add that insurance, which may increase the rates a little bit.
reserve funds,
Yep, we have an estimated amount for 11,245 a year for reserve funds, which is really minimal. We try to use basically the depreciation expense of the company, but that's, only at original costs, not replacement costs. Plus, with all the assets to be included in the loan, the next rate case they have would probably be a lot higher than the 11,000, because it needs to be in contingency to replace existing assets.
Mark, you mentioned rate of return. Can you talk about that for a moment?
Yeah, actually, the rate base is found on Exhibit 15.6. And it basically takes the utility plan and service, it isn't depreciated, subtracts the contribution and aid of construction, although it does add back accumulated amortization of kayak. And it also takes a small percentage of the amount that was in the bank. And then 15.7 shows the rate of return. We have the rate base is about 105,000. The rate of return, we just picked around 10%, and that could be subject to division hiring or lowering of that, I suppose. And the rate of the return on investment is about $10,500 that the company has an opportunity to earn, assuming that everything else goes as expected.
Is that fairly normal?
Well, there's really no normal for rate of return. 10% is pretty normal, but each company is so individual that some companies will have a lot higher rate base. Some companies will have virtually no rate base.
Unless Mark, you have any additional statements you'd like to make? I don't have any further questions for Mark.
No, I think I'm good.
Ms. Schmidt, any questions?
Yes, I'm wondering if the company intends to ask Mr. Long to sponsor the application filed in March, I believe, or earlier this year. The additional information that the company supplied in response to the division's request for additional information, and the May 19th filing as exhibits, and request that they be entered at this time.
So you're not moving for their admission, you're asking whether or not the company wishes to do so.
That is correct. They are the company's exhibits. I'm just trying to help.
Thank you, Patricia. Yes, we would like to move to introduce as evidence the documentation that Mark has prepared and filed.
I've got the docket in front of me. So you're moving to admit the March 26, 2026 filing, which was the application for a general rate increase, along with all attached exhibits, along with the April 10th, 2026 filing, which is a response to the Division of Public Utilities request for additional information and attached exhibits, and the May 19th filing, which was the updated application for a general rate increase and attached exhibits. And I believe the latter simply reflected portioning of confidential exhibits from those that were public records.
That's
Is that
correct.
correct?
That's
Yeah.
correct.
They're admitted. Any other questions, Ms. Schmidt?
No other questions. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Long, it's nice to see you. You worked for the Division of Public Utilities for quite some time. So I think this is about approximately a 1,400% increase. It's a substantial increase over base rates. And obviously, existing rates haven't been changed since 2006 and are exceptionally low. I'm wondering whether or not options were explored to partition this rate increase over a period of, say, 3 years. For example, I know the construction it's been testified that it's going to take 3 years to do the construction. Were options considered to take out a series of loans, for example, so that the increase could be made over a period of years to finance the necessary remediation of the system?
Yes, although we didn't know how the loan could be structured to do that, I suppose it probably could have. The problem we have now is if we don't include the loan, the only portion of the rate increase will only include what was being subsidized by the parent company. And so not knowing exact timing of the work to be done, we felt this was our best option, our only option. But I see where you're coming from. Maybe Shane has more input on that as well.
Mr. Barry, you're still under oath if you would like to provide any testimony on the subject. I think you're muted, sir.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, yes, we spoke specifically with the division about that. And they had initially talked to us about, hey, what if we do an increase to 250 and then move up in a year? And our answer to that is if we are just breaking even and we have no capital reserve, I can't go out and get a loan to work on anything. And when we went through the numbers, this just made the most sense. If we want to fix the system and the system is going to take at least 3 years to replace that old pipe, then we need to have an action plan in place and the money in place to get it done, and not to, okay, let's try to get a loan. Let's get part of it done. Let's try to get a loan. And in the meantime, we have to do another rate increase because we're not pulling in enough for this second loan. And then we're still sitting with old stuff that's not done. It just didn't make sense to roll the dice we know we can get it fixed with a rate increase. And we did everything we could to get it down as low as possible.
No, I understand the financing would be complicated for a construction loan that was going to be broken up like that. It's just I appreciate it's a difficult circumstance that the company finds itself in. All right. I don't have any other questions for you, Mr. Long. Thank you for your testimony.
You're welcome.
Mr. Bramhall, any other witnesses?
No.
Ms. Schmidt, would you like to call your witness?
Yes, please. The division would like to call Mr. Justin Shelton and ask that he be sworn.
Mr. Shelton, do you swear that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you please state and spell your full name for the record?
Yes, it's Justin Shelton, JUSTIN SHELTON.
By whom are you employed and what is your business address?
I'm employed by the State of Utah Division of Public Utilities as a utility analyst. The address is in the Heber Wells Building on 160 East, 300 South, the fourth floor, and that's Salt Lake City, Utah.
How long have you been employed by the division?
Just over 5 months.
Could you please give a brief summary of your educational and work experience as far as they are relevant?
Yes, I have an MBA from Utah State University. I have a master's degree in taxation from Weber State University. And I have 29 years of experience in public service, primarily in tax and accounting.
In conjunction with your employment at the division, have you participated in this docket on behalf of the division?
Yes,
Did you review and analyze Legacy Sweetwater's application, exhibits, and other relevant information in this docket?
yes,
Did you prepare and file or assist in the preparation and filing of the division's comments submitted May 7th, 2026 to the Commission?
yes,
Do you have any changes or corrections to those comments?
no,
If you were asked to make comments today, would your comments today be substantively the same as those filed on May 7th?
yes.
With that, the division would like to move for the admission of its comments filed May 7th in this docket.
They're admitted.
Thank you. Mr. Shelton, do you have a summary of your comments to share with us today?
Yes,
Please proceed.
thank you. Good morning. Legacy Sweetwater, Inc. filed its notice of intent to file a request for a rate increase on July 30th, 2025. On March 26th of 2026, the company filed its application for a general rate increase, an interim rate increase, and approval of new tariff. The division recommends that the interim rate request be approved. Legacy Sweetwater is a Utah-regulated public utility providing culinary water service as of 2026 to 63 connected customers and 179 standby customers in a development of cabins and second homes in Sanpete County, Utah. Based on the company prepared financial statements, substantial losses were reported on its water service for each of the years 2024, 2025, and projected for 2026. In 1999, Legacy Sweetwater was incorporated, issued its certificate of public convenience and necessity, and received its first general rate case order. In 2006, the company had its first rate increase from $20 a month to $25 per month. This 2006 rate increase was the last increase until the interim rate request that is currently at issue. Over this 20-year period, the water infrastructure has deteriorated. The system was originally designed for seasonal use only and now requires extensive repairs and upgrades to serve its year-round customer base. Legacy Sweetwater, Inc. is a subsidiary of iMoney Tools. To mitigate regular losses and keep the system maintained without increasing rates, the parent company and the individual owners of iMoney Tools have heavily subsidized Legacy Sweetwater in previous years. iMoney Tools and its owners can no longer continue these subsidies. The proposed interim rate increase and the general rate increase includes a future loan from a third-party lender to finance the necessary improvements and upgrades. Additionally, the rate increase will support an appropriate billing system. The division's review of an interim rate request is limited. A comprehensive review takes place as the process continues. The division reviewed the general rate case application, including the interim rate application, the annual reports, financial statements, and the testimony of company representatives. In addition, the division reviewed the construction estimates and forward estimated revenues and expenses projections prepared by the company. The division and the company met to discuss the company's current situation and possible alternatives to the proposal in the application to determine the course of action that best meets the needs of the company and its customers. Based on this interim rate review, the division concludes that there is sufficient prima facie evidence to support the proposed interim rates and that the interim rates are just and reasonable. This concludes my summary. Thank you.
Mr. Shelton, is it your testimony that the interim rates sought are more likely to reflect the company's situation than the current rates in place?
Yes, it is.
Mr. Shelton is now available for cross-examination questions and questions from the hearing officer.
Mr. Bramhall, any questions?
I have no questions.
Mr. Shelton, you said that the division met with Legacy Sweetwater to discuss alternatives and ultimately participate in the development of its proposal. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you did that personally?
Yes.
How extensive was that involvement?
I attended the meetings. We discussed the possibility of an assessment, as Mark referenced earlier, or Mr. Long. We also discussed a smaller rate increase to absorb this rate shock that, as you mentioned earlier, this is a tremendous increase. However, the smaller rate increase would only allow them to maintain the system in its current state. And as we looked into the application and had discussions and more information that came out, it just became clear that these upgrades are needed, and the system was originally not intended for what's taking place today. And again, it's also, there's been a long period of time that's elapsed since this system was originally put in. And so, we decided that rather than just a increase to maintain the system, the current status quo, this deferred maintenance needed to be addressed, and this would be the time to do it.
I don't know if you're aware, I expect you probably are, under the statute, Utah Code 54-7-12, the way the interim rate process works is that the commission grants an interim rate after the conclusion of the proceeding, and the commission issues a final order. If the commission determines that the interim rate was too high, the commission can order that monies be refunded to customers. And if the commission determines that the interim rate was too low, it can approve a surcharge. Is that consistent with your understanding?
Yes. In fact, I discussed this with our director, and he, brought this to my attention that if there is an overage in the charge, that can be refunded at the time of the general rate increase.
So based on your testimony today, I expect that you'll answer affirmatively to the following question, and that is, if the commission were to grant a lower rate interim rate, say $225, $250, that it's more likely that at the conclusion of the proceeding, the commission would be in a position where it would have to order a surcharge than that it will be ordering a refund. Do you understand that question?
Yeah, could you repeat that, please?
If the commission were to order a lower interim rate than what's being requested, say $225 for the base rate, is it your opinion that at the conclusion of the proceeding, after all of the evidence is presented, that the final rates are more likely to reflect the interim rate that's being requested in full, such that the commission would have to order a surcharge on customers that would be even higher than the final rate would otherwise be in order to reflect the difference?
Yes, if they were to undertake any of these capital improvements that are needed, there would need to be a surcharge. So if they, implemented the lower rate, it would just maintain the system as is. It would allow them to continue as a going concern, but not allow for any of the capital improvements that are needed.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sheldon. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you.
Ms. Schmidt, any other witnesses?
No other witnesses from the division.
All right. Mr. Bramhall and Ms. Schmidt, anything else before we adjourn?
Not on our behalf.
Nothing further from the division. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful morning. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.